This is Pod Populi, podcasts for the people.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Be Create Inspire, where we really look at these three aspects of what it takes to get to that next level of success or growth or achievement. But today we are focusing on something that's really, really important, which are what are the signs, right? The signs that you're not yet in your $1 million identity. And so much of this has been such a huge, huge work for me because there's stuff that I've been carrying since I was a young girl. And today we're going to start peeling the onion. I like to say, you know, if you've ever seen Shrek, he's like, life is like an onion. You have to pull all the different layers to get to the core. I'm sure he said it in a much funnier way. And for those of you who don't know me, hello, my name is Ariane or Ari, and I have been in the wellness and coaching industry for 20 years. And today I'm going to go a little bit vulnerable in this journey because I know that if I can share with you guys the things that prevented me from growing, if I share the things that I've seen throughout my life, my awareness is, it hopefully is also a source of inspiration for you. And before I continue, I want to remind you that if you didn't catch my last masterclass, the Teach, Create, Impact, Teach, Lead, Impact, then this is a great opportunity. I'll drop the link to register in the show notes. It was a powerful 3 days and it's completely free. So please, if you're really focusing on like leading, teaching, and impacting through your wisdom, your knowledge, your skill sets, then this is for you. And for those of you who already watched it and are ready to step into that next level with support, community, guidance, then please reach out to me on Instagram or send me an email. So what is that, the signs, right? Like if we really talk about like signs, you're not yet in your $1 million coach identity. And coach, guide, mentor, leader, these to me are very interchangeable. But let's start with a story because this, I remember so clearly being almost like the mirror that I had to look at myself in. And it was really doubting my value. So when we opened the yoga studio that I used to own, Trio Yoga, I opened it with my friend Michelle and another partner. And we realized that, you know, part of the yoga studio model, if anybody here is thinking about opening a yoga studio, is that you need a high ticket item. You need a training, you need a retreat, you need all of them in order to actually see some traction and like revenue jumps beyond your like day-to-day studio members, classes, drop-ins. And so Michelle looked at me, she's like, we need a teacher training. Mind you, at that point, this is around 2013. I had been teaching since 2005. And not only teaching, but actually traveling the world and, teaching in Germany at conferences. And I was like, Michelle, like, I don't know how to lead a teacher training. And she was like, oh, stop it. Stop. What do you mean you don't know how to teach? You've been teaching forever. And I was like, oh, I don't think I'm ready. And it took us about a week of her being like, hey, like this needs to happen. And I was like, well, why don't we bring in other teachers that are, smarter, or like more experienced than me? And she said something to me. So Michelle, if you ever listen to this, that really stuck with me. And it was like, you're the owner of the studio. And I was like, damn it. I was like, how do I own a studio and not think that I'm capable to lead a 200-hour teacher training? Like, I had been teaching, I had 10,000 plus hours of teaching under my belt. Like, and I still doubted myself. Isn't that wild? because giving somebody a piece of paper felt like I had so much responsibility on my shoulders. But you know what happened? The minute that we launched that first teacher training and we sold it out, we had like 15 people in the first training. I then had about 6 years of trainings that I was able to not only do it at 200, but at a 300-hour level. And then even started doing private mentorships. Like, it was wild. So that like week-long period, first of all, if Michelle had not probably like egged me on to launch this training, I don't know if the training would have really happened, because it wasn't stemming from me, because I was living in such high levels of self-doubt. Like, I didn't think I was ready. I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think like who am I to lead a training? Like, there's so many people that are better than me. Let's just promote somebody else. Like, there was so much like itty bitty shitty committee that was coming up. I can't even begin to tell you guys like the internal struggles that I had. But you know what? The minute that we were like, all right, boom, 200-hour teacher training, I had to up level my responsibility. I had to be like, all right, if I'm going to certify people, like, I need to know my stuff. And I went in and I started like redigesting information, philosophy, energy, subtle body stuff. Cause we were at that time, like we were not only very traditional, but like we knew we couldn't be just like any other training that was out there. Cause as you know, there's great trainings, there's good trainings, and there's okay trainings. And we wanted to be the best. Like, straight A student over here needed to make sure that like our teacher training manual was like on point. So what did I do? I became what's called a reporter, right? I started pulling information from books, resources, listening to stuff, and pulling, always, of course, giving credit, right? Where credit was due. But I started systematizing. I was like, yep, I really believe in this. No, this part, is maybe a little too out there for the students, maybe a little too advanced. And we created our system, which was, very briefly, like a baseline. Like, we wanted to empower our teachers to become good teachers versus turning them into robots and being like, here's a sequence, memorize this, teach it, right? Like, that wasn't about what we did. And that's why a lot of our teachers actually our graduates are still like teaching and being successful out there. But it was owning my value in this whole process. And I had to let go of that doubt, that persistent doubt. And I know that it still like rears its little head when I'm about to launch something, or whether I'm creating a new program. I'm like, who am I? Like, do I know this? Is it enough? And I'm like, oh my God, like, how much money and time have I spent on working with masters, especially for business? Like, I've invested in working with some of the best coaches in the industry, on digital marketing, on offer creation, right? Like, I consume courses like it's my job. So think about this, right? Like, how has that been potentially preventing you from getting the results that you want, from putting out that new course, that new program? And look, if we're really talking about like signs that are preventing you from reaching that next iteration, it could also be that you feel like you have to over-explain yourself. And like talking over people, right? Thinking you have to explain, justify your prices perhaps, or if you've been a little bit scared of raising your prices, what do you do is maybe that you're like, well, and you go down into this rabbit hole of like having to convince people that you're great, not just good, you're great. And in case you need that reminder, like, hello, you're great. And you're doing the best that you can do. I hope. As a mom, I have to constantly remind myself that like I am doing the best that I know, and I'm like cognizant that this is my best. right? Like I'm not half-assing being a mom. I'm not half-assing being a coach, and guarantee you're not half-assing, being a teacher, being a mentor or a coach, wherever you are in your industry. But like, really, it's like, are we over explaining ourselves and thinking that we have to make all these excuses or slash our prices? You don't have to do any of this, right? You want to lead. And let me put something out there. There's people out there, and I was talking to my hairdresser about this. She's like, Addie, I have 2 lines of shampoo and hair care. I have this one, it's Italian. I have this one that is from Spain. She's like, they're both great. She's like, this one is like 20% more than the Spanish one, the Italian one. And she's like, and I have clients that will only buy this one, not because it's better, because they're both awesome, but the perceived value of this is more. Whereas this one, they're like, it's cheaper. So I'll get the more expensive one because by its price point, it's got to be better. Think about this. Louis Vuitton, right? All right, let's go one step into jewelry. I like jewelry. So I'm wearing a bracelet and it has like 2 interlocking circles. Okay. Now, if you have ever looked at Cartier has a very similar design, right? It's part of their love design. And it has 2 interlocking circles. The main difference, obviously, is that it has the Cartier symbol, and Cartier craftsmanship is above and beyond, and the brand is, over 100 years old. Whereas this bracelet I got on a website that I really like, and it's a little bit smaller, has less gold, and it probably wasn't crafted by a master Cartier craftsman. Price difference, about $4,000. So what does this mean? That are both of them made out of 18 karat gold? Check. Yes. Do both of them have 2 interlocking circles? Yes. Check. Do both of them fulfill the same purpose? Make my wrist look pretty? Give me a little bit of bling? Yes. Check. One has Cartier branding on it. This one does not. And Cartier is going to give me an essence of status. This one, not so much, right? Because it's regular. So there's people out there that, and funny enough, like I used to be one of those people. I still kind of am. And I'll tell you guys in a minute. The Cartier is going to give status. Like if I see somebody wearing Cartier, I'm like, ooh, right? They must have money. They must like nice things. There's a status perceived immediately. So when you open the Cartier website, it's very elegant. Everything's on point. The pictures are beautiful. Everything looks great. When you go to the website where I bought this from, it still looks great, but there's not a perceived value. There's not like the brand hasn't commanded that it's luxury. Does it do the same thing? Yes. I'm going to give you a second example. Yoga mats. So there's a brand that we work with the Yoga Expo, whose yoga mats are like about $200. Now, some of you are saying like, what? A $200 mat? And I'm like, yeah, a $200 mat. One, it's like design is really cool. Second, its materials are amazing because they're made out of coconut. Like they have all these really cool features, and their actual design, like they have really like special prints, right? And they're catering to a more luxury market. Whereas you could go and get a good yoga mat probably for like $80. One is that you're now believing, right? With the more expensive mat, you're believing that all these features and all these qualities of the mat, like you're aligning to them. So they don't have to over explain their offer. They did enough, which is like your core values, you're working with, your belief systems, plus they're actually really great mats to practice on. Whereas like an $80 mat, you're kind of you could buy like 5 different brands that are $80 mats. You could do a Manduka, you could do a this, you could do a that. So what is happening here is that we are saying, when it comes to our stuff, potentially that, because I'm in a place of fear or I don't have the mindset, I'm going to lower my prices so that it's more accessible. And yes, of course, like here's my story with Cartier. Like right now, yes, I could go buy a Cartier bracelet, right? Absolutely. And I choose not to because I want the same feature, but those extra like 4K, I've actually been putting aside to buy more stocks and invest in some real estate stuff, right? So my priorities are in a different place. I don't care so much about the status. And will I buy a Cartier bracelet at some point? Yes. And I'll let you guys know when that happens. So here's like that mindset piece, right? Like if you're over explaining yourself, if you're dropping your prices, then are you really selling to that customer that is wanting to buy quality? Or if they're like, price doesn't matter and I could choose A, B, or C, right? So this creates these like what are called like downward spirals, like these rabbit holes, right? So now you're like doubting your value, which is like number one. Second, you're over explaining your offers, dropping your prices. Number three, you might even be avoiding visibility because of this. And in this day and age, whoever commands attention commands the marketplace. So if you're hiding behind your day-to-day, behind your busy work, behind this, behind that, like you've thought about this podcast that you want to launch, but like, then like, who's going to listen to my podcast? Who's going to, like you start having again that like itty bitty shitty committee, then ask yourself, right? Like, is that really doing what my inner self desires? Is not being visible. Like I even did an Instagram live this morning, no makeup, like on my way to the gym with like my daughter's trucker hat, which is very cute. And like I could have created 1,000 excuses not to do a live, but I chose to do the live because I know visibility helps me. It doesn't hurt me. It helps my goal. It helps my vision. It helps to connect with people because there's a message in you that is probably being suppressed because of this like main sign of doubt and of fear. So I want you to really step into this, place of possibilities. Like what would happen if I released this golden handcuff per se of this doubt, this, maybe there's even some shame in there. There might be all sorts of things going on. And trust me, there's all sorts of things going on inside me. And I know I have an option. I can listen to them and I could succumb to them, or I could say, F you, I ain't got time. I'm moving forward. And I'm moving forward despite all these things that are telling me that you're going to fail, that you're not good enough, that like blah, blah, blah. Because what ends up happening is that you fill up your time with busy work that actually doesn't move the needle forward. You're like, well, let me like update my courses. Well, let me create this really like great Canva graphic for 3 hours. We're like, let me clean my baseboards. And I say this because I have cleaned my baseboards in order to avoid. But are my baseboards going to make me money? No. That I can do on a Sunday where it's like house day, not on a Tuesday at 2:00 in the afternoon. This is your opportunity to rise beyond your self-limiting beliefs. This is your opportunity to step into that new potential, like launch the course, even tell somebody about it. Like what would happen, right? Like people aren't buying your stuff because you're not giving them anything to buy. People aren't working with you because maybe you haven't like given them the opportunity. You haven't tapped them on the shoulder and be like, hey, right? Like there's so many things that maybe you're not doing because you're not being. This is why we call this podcast Be, Create, Inspire. If you're not being, how are you creating? How are you doing these actions? And I want you to remember this one quote: micro actions lead to macro results. So if you are allowing those self-limiting beliefs to be the drivers, right? If you are, and I went to this conference this weekend and he said something that was really powerful. Like, he talked about the conscious and subconscious mind, and how really our subconscious mind is what controls us. And subconscious is like 11 million things happening versus conscious mind is only like 40. But what happens when we take some of this subconscious into the conscious, there's actually more action, right? There's more awareness than if it's just like an operation, right? Because subconscious, like, is more autonomous, whereas conscious, it's like, I'm consciously doing something. It's such a fascinating place to be in. And I'm like so thrilled to be able to take you a little bit down into my place of vulnerability, like where I've had moments where I've like listened to fear, where I've succumbed to doubt, and how it's just like, my God, if, for example, like we wanted to buy this investment apartment and we were like, man, like we just like really doubted, like, should we put our money here? We don't have, like, we had the money, we had equity, like it wasn't even money that we really, and now that apartment is worth like 4 times more. It's right. But we listened to doubt. Now, I'm not saying to be irresponsible and just be like, woo, like, if you're going to invest in something and then you can't, eat for a week, like that's not responsible. Like, be in a place of discernment and be in a place of responsibility and be in a place where you're, making that decision from a grounded place, a firm place. Because if you are looking for, I said like, $1 million identity, but even if it's a multiple 6 figures identity, it all starts with what you're thinking, information that you're consuming, thoughts that you're listening to, and this is something MC Yogi said. I was able to practice with him this weekend. He's like, your mind is stupid. Why you listen to your mind? And I was like, yeah, my mind is kind of stupid sometimes. Right? It like says the most random things. Like if I say like, oh, I'm going to have $1 million year, my mind's like, ha, ha, ha. Really, mind? Like, you're not my ally right now. Shut up. So see if your mind is being an ally to you, and see who you're surrounding yourself with as well, because are they being allies or are they being sinkers? And once again, I'm going to invite you to, join me in my programs, in my mentorship, join me on social media, and let's see, what is that next level for you? What is that? What are the strategies that we need to do to move backwards from your goal, to like reverse engineer stuff? And I'll see you guys so soon. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for sharing. And if you would so kindly give us a rating, 5 stars, amazing. And I'll see you in the next episode. Have a great day.